Okay, so yesterday was Yom Yerushalayim, and the celebration of 50 years of our return to Yerushalayim, more specifically our return to the old city of Yerushalayim, our return to the Kotel, the Western Wall, and thanks to Rabbi Yoshua Flug for the different sources which go through halachic issues that come up today with the Kotel, which are all mostly based on the different views of what is that wall, or what is that wall a remnant of? Which part of the temple greater structure was it part of? Now, first of all, we need to realize that there is, going back to Medrashim, right? Medrash, we're talking about the time of the Gemara. So we're talking about a good 2,000 years ago. The Medrash discusses the Kotel HaMa'aravi. It discusses the Western Wall. Shmot Rabbah, the Medrash on Shmot, which is source number 1. Rabbi Yosef Chanina, Hinei ze omed acha kotlenu. There is a verse in Shir Shirim, in Song of Songs, which speaks about Hinei ze omed achar kotlenu. It's standing behind our walls, referring to the Shekhinah, to the divine presence. So on a simple level, it's right there. The divine presence is right there. It's right there behind the walls. We don't see it, but it's right there. But the Medrash says, Ze Kotel Ma'aravi. Which wall are we referring to? The western wall shall Beit HaMikdash, which was part of the Beit HaMikdash, the temple structure. She'eino charev li'olam. That will never be destroyed. Lama, why? Shashechina b'ma'arav. Because the Shekhinah, the divine presence, is there in the west. Yes. Yes. What's the name again, Dov? Yisroel ben Yaakov. Yes, Dov. The Medrash Rabbah in Bamidbar, right? And Bamidbar, Amar Rav Acha, source number 2. La'olam ein hashchina zaza mikotel hama'aravi. Right? So he says, not only are you saying that Hashem is behind that wall, so to speak, it will never be destroyed, but he says the Shekhinah, the divine presence, never moves from the Kotel HaMa'aravi, from the western wall. Shenemar, that same pasuk, Hinei ze omeid achar kotlenu. Behold, it is standing behind our walls. Again, so this is Medrash. Medrash is a good 2,000, around 2,000 years ago. We have the Medrash speaking about the Shekhinah, the divine presence, being found there after the destruction of the temple, the Shekhinah, the divine presence, being at the Kotel HaMa'aravi, and it never leaving.
But Midrash was written before the destruction or after the destruction?
The Medrash, this was written after the destruction. After the destruction.
Rabbi,
yes.
Are we ever going to cover why the Western Wall?
No, I don't have sources on that, Steve.
Only because it survived?
But no, but it seems there's a lot of importance about the Western Wall.
Because
Yeah. Now, we find, going back to the time of the Rishonim were the years 1000 to the years 1300. So we find there that the Kotel already had significance. Rav Binyamin of Tudela, years 1130 to 1173, we have his writings. B'lifnei Oto Makom, and in front of that place, source number 3, Kotel Ma'aravi, the western wall. Echad me'akotelim shahayu b'mikdash. One of those walls that were part of the temple, B'kodesh HaKodeshim, which housed the Holy of Holies, the Koronoto Shar Harachamim. And that is what we call by the name of Sha'ar Harachamim, the gate of compassion, meaning the gate of heavenly compassion. Ulisham ba'im kol ha-Yehudim. And it is to there that all the Jews come, lihitpalel, to pray, lifnei kotel ba'azara, in front of that kotel ba'azara of the courtyard. So again, we see the significance of the kotel, and it's interesting. Some places will say, the kotel is the holiest place for the Jewish religion. Right? Well, that's not so accurate. The kotel is the remnant of the holiest place of the Jewish religion, which is where the temple actually stood, the Kodesh Kadashim, and we'll see a source from the Radvaz that the place where the Holy of Holies is the place. Is the place where presently there is a mosque, the Dome of the Rock, where the Dome of the Rock is sitting there. Yeah, we'll see the Radvaz shortly. Now, in 1929, the British didn't allow for the setting up of a mechitza at the Kotel and imposed other restrictions on the Jews about shofar blowing, things like that, because of complaints from the Muslims. Rav Avram Kook, he voiced very, very strong opposition, and he declared a public fast over these restrictions being put on us by foreigners in our own home. And he wrote an article called Kotelenu, Our Wall, and that is source number 4. And Rav Kook's writing is absolutely beautiful. I'll, of course, translate as we go along. Goy echad yesh ba'olam. There is a singular nation in the world, Yisrael Shemo, that goes by the name Israel. V'zakenhu hagoy hazeh. Right? This nation is aged, not old, right? But has
like wine.
Yes, has a strong history.
Experience.
Yes, kochot adirim, tremendous forces, amdu alav, have stood up against this nation, la'achido min ha'olam, to eliminate it from the world. Amim rabim, many nations, chamushe, who are armed with koach, with forces, zroa basar, and tremendous strength. Baz'u artso, they plundered its land. Hecherivu mikdasho, destroyed its Beit HaMikdash, its temple. Pazru et banav l'chol ever, and scattered her children in all directions. Vitzaru oto, and caused a tremendous, tremendous anguish. Bechamat nakam, with an anger of vengeance. Ula'am hazeh, and to this nation, yeshna neshama adira, it has a very powerful soul. Rabat onim asher lo tuchal lihikached, incredible abilities which cannot be eliminated. Nishmat chayim, a living soul. Ruvaya leshed shel yotzer hachayim kulam, right, which draws its sustenance from the former of life, from the one who formed all life. Haneshama hazot nitgalta ba'olam. This neshama has revealed itself, this soul has revealed itself in the world, al yidei sefer asfarim, by the book of all books. Hakatuv b'ktav kodesh kadashim, written in the language of the Holy of Holies. V'oz Hashem, and the power of Hashem, asher b'sefer hagadol hakadosh hazeh, that is found in this great and holy book. Hu ha-yisod, this is the foundation, l'tarbut hanushit, for all of human culture. Ha'hoveh, that which was, va'atida, and that which will be. La'am hazeh haya mikdash, and this nation had a temple, niskav, uplifted b'kedushato, in its holiness, mikol mikdash, from any temple, asher malolon kulo, whichever, in this entire planet. Va'achrei asher nishtada artso, and after its land was plundered. V'necharav mikdash gono, and the temple was destroyed. Nishar lo ach, sarid echad, it's left with one remnant, be'eretz hachayim, in this world. Zeu kotlenu, and that is our wall. Kotel Hamaravi, the western wall. And in the article that I sent out, Rav Kook was very strong. It's not a wailing wall. Wailing is what you do when you're helpless, when there's nothing you can do. That's a term that the nations give it. That's not a Jewish term. It's not a wailing wall. It's our western wall. It's the wall, the remnant of the Beit HaMikdash, of the temple. Ha'uma hitpalza miyagon v'che'ev ne'echar. Aaron, what's hitpalza? We've been wilting? Yeah. Crushed. We've been crushed. Yeah. Under the sorrow and this incredible pain. V'rishmei katanut hamoach v'atimut hargasha neged hod olam zeh od holchim umitgalim. And proclamations from small-minded people with no sense, are coming out, right? Are coming out against this glory of the world, against this kotel. Al yidei olot, by these fools, sheshavin hen keklipat hashum, who are like the peels of the garlic. Yeda yitras Yisrael, know Israel, et asher naaseh sarid machamdo. Realize what's being done to that which remains of the glory. V'yadu ami amei tarbut kulam, and let the nations, the civilized nations, realize. V'chever halumim, and at that point, it's the League of Nations. V'am abriti, and the British people, Baal hamandet, those who have the mandate in Palestine at the time. Right? He died in 1935. Biyichud, right? In particular, v'yiru l'taken et hamuvat, and let them understand they've got to fix these these wrongs. V'lo yosifu l'ngoa od, and do not continue to touch benachalat kodesh kadashim, right? This portion of the Holy of Holies. V'yedu v'yakiru, let them know and realize mi hu zeh omeid achar kotleinu, which is the verse that we started for. Who is it that stands behind our wall? So this was the powerful letter, article written by Rav Kook to defend when it was under the British mandate, we were under their control, but to defend the interests of the Jewish people at the Kotel. Now, there have been questions that have been posed. A question was posed to the Radvaz. For him, the Radvaz lived in the 15th and 16th, end of the 15th, beginning of the 16th century. For him, it was a theoretical question. Someone who's forced onto Har HaBayit, and he's in between the Holy of Holies and the Kotel. Which way should he face? A person, if he would find himself in between the Holy of Holies and the Kotel, and that person is there in the middle. I'm sorry? To which way should he face? Should he face? So the Radvaz said, like you, Rachel, he should face the Kodesh Kadashim. He understands the Midrash, which says that the Shechina is in the Kotel, is not to be taken literally. Right? He means, the Medrash he understands to mean, the Shechina is by the temple, and the remnant of the temple that we have is the Kotel. But it's not referring specifically to the Kotel. The Kotel is that which is the term that's used for the Mikdash Elyon. More contemporarily, Rabbi Avigdor Nebenzal, he says when someone's davening at the Kotel, now, when we're facing the Kotel, actually the Kodesh Kadashim is off to our left. So the question is, when someone today is praying at the Kotel, should one face straight to the Kotel, or should one angle oneself to the left, facing towards the Kodesh Kadashim? And his response was that one should right? He says he's not sure about this. The minhag ha'olam, the custom of the world, is at the Kotel that we face straight at the Kotel, right? Otherwise, it would seem to be a denigration of the Kotel to be standing in front of it and be turning ourselves away from it. But what is the Kotel? What is it? Linda, come in so we can see you. What is the Kotel? What is it a remnant of? So the Radvaz wrote, this is source number 5, Sha'alta mimeni odiacha dati. You asked me to let you know my opinion. Emuta likanes la'aliyot ha'bnuyot saviv lebeit hamikdash. Is one allowed to ascend to those areas that are built up around the up around the Beit HaMikdash? Shehem boltot. A lot of them extend out l'toch HaMikdash into the Mikdash area. Al gavi zizim. There are different porches that extend out. What should one's approach be? And keep in mind, when we go to the Kotel now, we have the beautiful Kotel Plaza that's all opened up. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. In 1967, we came there, right? It was a place where our Muslim neighbors there would specifically throw garbage, right? And it was all encroached
Didn't
upon.
They also have houses?
Yeah.
They have houses in
Houses.
Yeah. Teshuvah, realize. He writes, Shelo kol aliyot shavot. Not all of these different porches will have the same status. Lo kol aruchot shavot. Not all directions, not all areas are the same. V'tzarech omed yafeh lerot. And therefore it would take a very clear assessment to know Eizo mutarot ve'eizo asura. Right? Which ones will be permitted, that they're not in the space of the Mikdash, and which ones are not. That's because the matter is clear. Shetachat hakipa sham, underneath that dome there, is Even Hashtia. That is this rock, this foundation rock that's spoken about. B'lisafek hanikra Islam, that they call al-Aqsa. V'im Tomer, if you'll ask, the Hatzanan, well, our sources teach, Even Haita Sham Yimot Nevi'im Rishon, there was a stone there from the days of the earliest prophets, Ushtia Shema, and its name is the Even Shetia, the Shetia stone, Gavoa Me'al Aretz Gimel Etzba'ot, and it only comes out of the ground three finger breadths.
What is Shetia?
Foundation. It's called the foundation stone. And it was on that the holy ark in the Beit HaMikdash, in the Holy of Holies, was sitting on that. V'ata shalanu at PM. And now when we ask the Muslims who have their dome, their mosque there, they say that it's 3 stories high. Right, and we see that they ascend with steps to get there. So how can that be the same stone? Kvar katavti al zeh b'tshuva, I've already written. Shekarkita bayit chafro to kama pa'amim. The floor of the Beit HaMikdash has been dug down many times. Legalot ha'yisodot, in order to reveal the foundations. Therefore, it's much lower now than it was at the time that the temple stood. Teda realized in many places it says Har HaBayit was higher than Yerushalayim, and now we see it's the opposite. Now, also the nations say that underneath that dome is a cave, and earlier kings wanted to know what was down there, and they lowered people down there, and whoever they lowered down didn't come back up. And therefore they closed that off and filled it up with earth until today. And no one knows what's there. And it seems to me, right, that the Aron Ganuz Shama, that the ark of the temple, that it is hidden beneath there. Right? And that's why they were digging, hoping to find it. Right? And that is why the floor has gotten lower from all the digging that's been done over the years, right? And that is why this Even Shatia, this foundation stone, is that much higher. So he is identifying the location of the Even Shatia, the foundation stone. That's where the Kodesh Kadashim stood. That is under the dome of the rock. Now, some write, and Ida, this is for you, from the Chachmas Adam, Rav Avram Danzig. He writes at source number 6. He writes, "Sarich li zaher ma'od." You have to be very careful. Shloli kanes b'makom hamikdash, not to enter the place of the mikdash. Shekulanu tmeyim meitim. We have all become ritually impure through our coming in contact with people who have deceased, who have died, and we don't have the Torah process. Right? Mikvah alone doesn't do it. We don't have the Torah process of purification. And then we have to be careful not to enter there, because one who has that level of impurity is not allowed to enter there. Right? There is a serious repercussion of a spiritual cutting off for entering there when one is tameh. Even the one who says that the special holiness of Israel stopped, abated once we were exiled. But the holiness of the temple area did not abate. When you go, they have to make sure that you are, right, the Har Habayit is to your east, and you stand to the west, panim lemizrach, facing east, behind the mikdash, ki kotel ma'aravi hanishar. The remaining western wall, ratzalomar, kotel ha'azara. So, the Chachmas Adam held, like the Radvaz, that is the wall of the Azara, of the courtyard, which was behind the Holy of Holies, Yud Aleph Amah, 11 Amot. Right? Therefore, one can get close to it. But moving behind that, one is not allowed to go. See, he holds that is the wall of the courtyard itself. However, Rav Avadi Yosef says that there are clear problems with the calculation. From that wall to the Dome of the Rock is not 11 amot, it's more than 100 amot. It's much further. And therefore, most say, well, Rav Tukachinsky, who was a lot more contemporary, 1871 to 1953, I have it there, source number 7, writes that the Radvaz's opinion that the Kotel's wall of the Azara was never accepted. The minhag has always been to go up close to the Kotel without concern that it is part of the Har Habayit. Understand that if that's the wall of the courtyard, then beyond that is the Har Habayit area. We had the Har Habayit, the Temple Mount area, and within the Temple Mount area, we had the courtyard, and within that, we had the Holy and the Holy of Holies. So if that is the courtyard, then in front of the Kotel is Har Habayit. And Har Habayit also, there are restrictions.
What is Har Habayit?
The Temple Mount. Har Habayit, the mountain of the Bayit, of the house, the Temple Mount. And even on Har Habayit, on the whole Temple Mount area, not just the Azara, not just the courtyard of the temple, the whole Har Habayit area has its restrictions.
When we read the laws, where does it say, is that part of the Talmud?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because it's not in the Torah, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. We didn't have the Beis Hamikdash in the Torah. We had a
Yeah.
Mishkan. So, right, the Mishkan would be similar to the within the Azara, within the courtyard, and the Machane Leviah, the camp of the Levites in the Torah, that would be similar to Har Habayit.
Okay.
Right?
Thank you.
And the Machane Yisroel would be like all of Yerushalayim. See, he writes that, right, and that. So therefore, according to the more accepted opinion, This is part of the outer Har Habayit, the Temple Mount area, right? One of the outer supporting walls, not part of the courtyard itself. Baruru Pashutu, he writes, this is number 7. Kasher Arman, like we said, Shakodam Aravihu miyesod chomat Har Habayit. It's one of the foundations of the wall of Har Habayit. Lo min ha'azara haya. Not part of the temple courtyard itself. Amnam, Migdol Yisrael Shababaku, V'chavu Daitem. There are great Jewish scholars who had different opinions. Shumi Kotel Azar, who said that it's from the wall of the Azara, or Amikdash, or of the temple. Even in our time, there were certain sages who thought that. Kamo Agon, Rav Kalishar, Rafil Agon of David Friedman. He says it's not from the courtyard, but it is from the chayil. The chayil was the area right in between the courtyard and the rest we call the Har Habayit Temple Mount. Like the Radvaz wrote, Bebo, when he came Pam Rishana, when he came there, El Ha Kohen V'Levayit, when he came there to the place of the Mikdash, V'Levayit accompanied by a Rav before some Yishu Yosef Kalbo. Lo Ratzalagin al Kotel. He did not want to come close to the Kotel, concerned that it was the Kotel Azara. Aval Kvar Nebaru L'Madai, but it's already been made very clear. V'nira B'chush, and we now see clearly Shehu Yisod Chomat Har Habayit, that this is actually the foundation of the wall of Har Habayit. It's not part of the courtyard. That does not take away from the midrash that we began with, that the Shekhinah, the divine presence, is there as part, and that's where it resides, so to speak, with the destruction of the temple, that it is by the Kotel HaMa'aravi.
So now I'm confused. So you have this wall that's for Har Habayit. So there was a wall built around the wall of the courtyard? So there was like space in between?
No. Listen, there was the courtyard. Okay? Here's the Beis HaMikdash. Here's the Kodesh Kodashim.
Right.
Here's the Azara. Here's the courtyard around it.
Right.
This table. Right? And there's an area called the Chayil, right around there.
Right.
And then we have the Har Habayit.
Oh, so the
The
wall
wall
was...
is part of the Har Habayit.
But
Har
there
Habayit
was
structure.
only the one wall. And then the
There
courtyard...
was only the one wall. No, that's what's remaining.
Right, but what I'm getting at is Har Habayit immediately then, the space inside the wall, some of it was Har Habayit, and then some progressed to be courtyard.
Correct.
There was no other wall
Correct.
surrounding the courtyard.
Correct.
No inner wall.
Correct. And no, there was. There was a wall on the courtyard. But that's not our Kotel. Yeah. There was a wall around the courtyard, but that's not the Kotel.
Right. Okay, so there was a second wall. The way you drew it, it was just the
Holy of Holies,
Right.
courtyard, wall, if that makes it easier.
okay. And then
Har Habayit,
a bigger wall, huger
Kotel.
wall.
Har Habayit, Kotel.
Right.
That's what we have.
Okay.
Okay? Now, there is another class that we'll try to get to about the Har Habayit itself. Right? There are many different opinions. The Rabbanut, the chief rabbinate, says one should not ascend to the Temple Mount. There are many Rabbanim who say you can ascend to the Temple Mount, but you just need to know where you're going, where you can and where you can't go. I personally have never ascended up onto Har Habayit.
But
That's the
there is-
ramp by the Kotel that takes you up over there.
But there is this mosque there now. So
The mosque it's a very large area. Right?
The mosque,
I'm sorry?
Do they allow Jews to go there?
Yes, Jews are allowed to go there. There is, believe it or not, there is an Israeli law that Jews are not allowed to pray there. So if a person is caught moving their lips, they can get in trouble, which is a little strange to me. But
Especially in the age of cell phones.
it is what it is. Right? Well, it's astounding that that the world is okay with a law, that Israel is okay and the world doesn't see the
Irony.
the irony, the ridiculous nature of having a rule that no one there is allowed to pray to God.
But they made a law that the Kotel Ma'aravi doesn't belong to Israel. It belongs
This is
to
an Israeli law.
No, it's terrible.
This is, I know, what you're saying is UN.
Yeah.
I'm saying there's an Israeli law, right? We have, right, that's Israel. So we have an Israeli law that Jews are not allowed. Now I can understand perhaps that Jews, not to allow people to congregate there. Right? I can understand that. We're not going to want to have Muslims congregating at the Kotel and having their prayer service. So I can understand saying that Jews should not be allowed to congregate and make minyanim up there for public prayer. But to say that a person cannot call out to God and move his lips as he calls out to God, to me that is that borders on insanity.
But Western Wall and the plaza in front of it is part of, it's a Jewish territory, isn't it?
Everything's Jewish territory. It's all Jewish territory. We, in order to avoid there being what we were afraid would be...
Israeli territory.
And the Temple Mount also is Israeli territory. We allow what's called the Waqf, the Jordanian religious authorities, to have a certain degree of jurisdiction over there in order to... That was a decision that was made, wise or not, in order to avoid the Arab world, going nuts.
Rabbi, what about...
Have they gone nuts without that?
Yeah.
On the left, on the cave, you have the continuation of the wall?
Yes.
That's some people diving inside.
Yeah, that's all, yes. We have the wall itself, you have the women's area, the men's area, and then there also is inside, right, to the left there of the men's area, and also the women can also go, there's also a back area there also, they have bar mitzvahs there, right, and also actually the tunnel excavations takes you down under and takes you all along the wall there. One other issue I wanted to discuss is the airspace of the Kotel. Okay? Now, there is a halacha. The Korban Pesach, for example, the Pesach sacrifice has to be eaten within the walls of Yerushalayim. Now, if you're in a doorway facing inward, it's considered inside. Right? Windows and their airspace are considered like the inside. Right? The Gemara discusses a person is tamei and he sticks his hand impure and he sticks his hand into the courtyard, that's considered that he has entered in an impure state. Now, therefore, if we're saying that it's a wall of the Har HaBayit, then do we say those crevices in the wall are you're entering into Har HaBayit? So is it okay to put the notes into the wall? Rav Shulei Diskin, 1818 to 1898, one of the great Rabbanim of Yerushalayim, originally said that a rule the people should not stick their hands into the crevices. Later he said that it's not the actual wall Har HaBayit, right? And therefore one can do it, right? Now, even if we'll say it is from the Har HaBayit, there are different opinions why it would be okay, right? He says that, that we say that the walls or the windows are considered, that's only if you're at the level of where it was, okay? We are much lower at this point, and therefore it's not going to be an issue. Also, those who say that a partial entry is an entry, that's through a true entry, through a window or a door. Here it's not an entry, it's a wall, right? But there are some cracks in the wall. Much more recently, Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach Zatzal, who I had the privilege of seeing him many times in his lifetime and going to his funeral. He passed away in 1995. He said clearly that the minhag, the custom, is to be lenient about a person putting their hands, right? So a person goes to the Kotel, one could put their hands against the wall, not be concerned that maybe my hands are going right into a crevice and putting notes into the wall. Very fascinating. From the Or HaChaim, he's one of the classic commentators on the Chumash found in the Nekros Gedolos Chumashim itself. He lived from 1696 to 1743. And this is source 8, I'm just going to translate it into English as I'm reading in Hebrew. One time, there was a man who was close to the Or HaChaim. Ashin Parnes, who worked hard and had a nice parnas, had a nice sustenance, but the wheel of fortune, we'll call it, turned on him, and he came before the Or HaChaim, and he poured out his heart, that in his house, aniyut yalechun, there's tremendous poverty, there's no bread, and he begged him to do him a favor, to please pray on his behalf, and to guarantee him a bracha that his situation will improve. Or HaChaim was filled with compassion for this person, for the cry of the poor, and he agreed, and he wrote a little note in Ktav Ashurit, in Lashon HaKodesh. V'karcho hetev, and then he wrapped it up very, very well. And he put into the hand of the poor person, and he said, hold on to this tight. Go straight to the Kotel Maravi. And amongst the stones there, find a place where there's a little crevice, a hole, and you'll place it there. Place the note there, and go back home, Vatihi l'chali Yeshua, and everything will be all right. So you see clearly this custom of putting into a crack in the wall is already going back to the time of the Or HaChaim, right? We're going back to the 1600s, 1700s, and no less of a person than the Or HaChaim HaKadosh. Well, this person did that, and he went straight away, holding on to that note, going to the Kotel. And as he was outside, this wind started to blow, and it knocked off his hat, but he still had his kippah on, and he was not letting go of this to get his hat, and he kept on going and holding on, right, to that note, right, holding on to his kippah with his left hand and that note with his right hand. And the wind blew harder, and it blew off his head covering, his kippah. And he's now left bareheaded. And when he went to try to pick up his kippah from amongst the wind, the note blew out of his hand. And it blew, and he could not find it. Uvamar Leva, with a bitter heart, he returned to the house of the Or HaChaim, told him what happened, and the Or HaChaim said, Ma aseh lecha, what can I do for you? It's clear that it wasn't meant to happen. Much later, they found in the streets of Yerushalayim, they found this note that was signed, Chaim ben Atar, signed by the Or HaChaim. And they brought it before the Or HaChaim, and they saw that it was written as follows. He wrote a note to the Shekhinah, to the divine presence, to God. Kaviyachol b'zeh halashon, and this is the way he wrote it. Achoti, Rayati, Yonati, Tamati, which is all from Shir HaShirim, endearing terms, right? My sister, my beloved, my Yonati, Tamati. How do we define that? My dove, right?
Yeah, Yonah is dove.
Yeah, Tamati, my complete one.
Very tender.
Yeah. Avakeshcha barachamim. I ask you to have compassion. La'ashpia parnasa tova, to send down good sustenance. Leploni ben ploni, to so-and-so, the son of so-and-so. The kach kos chasam alav shma kadosh, and he signed his name to it, Chaim ben Atar. So we have a good precedent, and we certainly have the minhag, the very established minhag of the world today, that we don't need to be concerned about the crevices, that a person can stand at the Kotel, put his hands up against the Kotel when he davens, even though the stones are very uneven, so one might be within, the airspace of the outer more protruding rocks of where the rocks were, that is fine. To take notes and put them inside, that is fine. And to realize just what a privilege it is for us to be living in a generation where we can return to Israel, and we can visit Israel, we can live in Israel, we can be in Israel, not at the mercy of other nations, but there in the land of Israel, in the state of Israel, and we can go to the Kotel. You know, part of the 1948 armistice agreements was that the Jordanians, who had control of the entire old city, of course including the Kotel, was that they would allow Jewish worship to go on there. And of course, that was something that was not honored. And Jews were not allowed to go there, and, right, for any sort of prayer, and the many shuls in the Rov HaYehudi, in the Jewish quarter of the old city, were destroyed. And it's only been under Israel that all religions have their freedom to pray, not everywhere, as we discussed before, but to pray as they see fit, Yeah.
Is the issue in controversy for whether you ascend? Because first of all, the issue that you might be tamei, and now you're inside.
Yes, that is the issue.
And
that is the issue.
Okay.
That is the issue.
It's not that you could be close to the
That is the issue. That is the issue. That is the issue. And when you go on the temple on the excavation tour there, when you walk underneath there, there's a place that is set up where you was right. I mentioned before that you turn to the left to be Kodesh Kodashim. That is the closest that we can get to Kodesh Kodashim. That is right across from the Kodesh Kodashim. That is
but lower, you're saying, right?
Yeah, you're underground over there,
And there's
the tunnel
a gate.
caves.
There's an open gate, so you look through. As I remember when I saw.
No, basically there's a wall there. Yeah,
There is a bar
yeah.
that you can go.
I thought there was an
I'm not
opening,
sure.
a gate you
I'm not
you
sure.
could see through.
I'm not sure.
I think there is.
Okay, Dov, wanna take care of us?
Thank you,
Good.
Rabbi.
Yashikach, everybody. And,
Thank you very much.